Prizzi's Honor by Richard Condon. Corrado Prizzi's granddaughter was being married before the Baroque altar of Santa Grazia di Traghetto, the lucky church of the Prizzi family. Don Corrado Prizzi, 84, sat on the aisle in the front pew, right side of the church. Beside Don Corrado sat his eldest son, Vincent, father of the bride. Beside Vincent was his brother, Eduardo. Directly behind Don Corrado sat Angelo Partana, his oldest friend and the family's counselor. In the church choir lofts, network TV cameras had been installed side by side with the family's own cassette taping units. Charlie Partana sat in the 11th row, right side, next to his cousin, movie executive Paulie Sestero. He had been a made man in the honored society since he was 17, the age at which his father had been made before him. Charlie Partana was Angelo's son, Vincent's sottocapo and the Prizzi's enforcer. "There are even people here from Agrigento, Charlie," Paulie said. "Never mind that," Charlie said. "Who is the great-looking head across the aisle, 2 rows up?" "I don't know," Paulie said. "Listen, Paulie," Charlie said. "I want something." "What?" "As soon as the Mass is over, I want you to tell the head guy on the cameras to shoot stuff on that girl for me." "Why not? You want it, you got it. Here." He took a card out of his side pocket and scribbled on it. "Give him this. He'll get you whatever you say." While the crowd was working its way out of the church, Charlie moved fast and grabbed the head camera guy. He put a $100 bill in the man's hand, figuring it would work better than Paulie's card. "See that girl over there? The beauty in the green and yellow dress." The man looked. "The beauty?" "With the little white gloves, the one moving out into the aisle." "Oh, that one, yeah." "Shoot as much as you can get on her when we get over to the hotel, you understand?" The man nodded vigorously. "Certainly," he said. "My pleasure. She will flash up the footage." The decorators had turned the ballroom of the hotel into a replica of the old Palermo Gardens. Charlie had hustled a ride over from the church in a police car so he could be sure to get there first. She got there after about 20 minutes. He saw that she was with Mayrose Prizzi, the bride's sister. He worked himself ahead of them in the crowd and positioned himself so that they couldn't get around him. Mayrose was a great woman, even if she had screwed up. She was a very wop looker, all eyes and beautiful bones among the grabbing domes and dunes. She was a woman who had done everything right, except once. "Hey, Charlie," she called out. "This is great. Meet my friend Irene Walker. This is Charlie Partana." She waited for him to speak. Jesus, Charlie thought. I never saw anything like this woman. Mayrose darted away into the crowd. "How about a drink?" Charlie said. "Maybe a glass of wine to the bride and groom." He was dropped by this woman. "Can I take you home? I mean, when you're ready." She stopped a waiter who was carrying a tray loaded with glasses of champagne. Charlie lifted 2 glasses off the tray. "I live in L.A., she said. "I meant to my home," Charlie said. Vincent Prizzi began to talk into the microphone on the stage. He introduced Don Corrado Prizzi to the guests. Charlie stood at attention. Don Corrado tapped on his son's arm and motioned for him to bring his head down. Vincent bent over, nodding as he listened. Then he turned back to the microphone. "My father welcomes you to this great family occasion," he translated. "He says you're all going to have a good time. He offers his toast of love to the happiness of the bride and groom and wishes them many children." Vincent lifted his glass. The 800 guests lifted their glasses. Everyone drank. The old man shuffled slowly off the stage and disappeared. Mayrose Prizzi grabbed Irene just as Charlie was turning her toward the dance floor. "A phone call, Irene," she said. "Phone call?" Charlie said blankly. But Irene was moving away with Mayrose and they got lost in the crowd. After 20 minutes of waiting, he went looking for her. He couldn't find her. Mayrose came off the floor. He stopped her. "Where's Irene?" "Irene? You dragged her away to the telephone." "Baby, how should I know?" He was the last wedding guest to leave. He went to find the head cameraman. "Did you get her?" "Yeah, I got the shots for you. It's very good. You're going to like it." "When do I see it?" We only shoot it, mister. I mean, we turn it in, it goes to the lab. You got to take that up with the company." "All right," Charlie said. "I could do that." He got into the beat-up black Chevy van in his tuxedo and drove out to the beach. When he got home to the 4-room apartment that Mayrose had decorated for him, he took off his bow tie and sat on his small terrace overlooking the bay and thought the whole situation through. He had to find her. That was all. It wasn't exactly kosher, but he had to call Mayrose and ask her. It could result in a whole series of pains in the ass, but she was his only connection with Irene. He lifted the phone to his lap and dialed her number. May? She isn't here. You want to leave a message? Who is this? This the girl. You got a pencil? Wait, I get a pencil. She came back. Okay. This is Charlie Partana. You want me to spell it? No, I got it. So spell it. She spelled it. Good, he said. You give me your name and I'm going to mail you $10 at that address. $10? Yeah, what's the name? Miss Peaches Altamont. All right, Peaches. Tell Miss Prizzi she has to call me no matter how late. She has the number. Yes, sir. He hung up and called Paulie at his hotel. There was no answer. He went to a table and pulled open a drawer. He took out an envelope, put a $10 bill into it, sealed it, and then addressed it. He went out of the apartment to the mail chute across from the elevator and got a stamp out of his wallet. He put the stamp on the envelope and dropped it into the chute. The elevator door opened and 2 men got out. Hey, Partana, the big one said. Charlie felt a flash of panic, naked, without a gun in the open hallway. The man flashed his shield. Gallagher, homicide, he said. Charlie relaxed. What's up? You don't want to talk about it out here. Okay, come on in. They went into the apartment. So? Charlie asked. Somebody hit Sal Noterbino this afternoon. Yeah? At his hotel. Who did it? Where were you between 2 and 5 today? At the wedding. Corrado Prizzi's granddaughter's wedding. What did I tell you? Gallagher said to the other cop. They're all going to turn out to be at the wedding. One of Ed Prizzi's lawyers got Charlie away from the cops at 10 o'clock that night. They had questioned him for over 3 hours, but he had nothing to tell them, and anyway, his mind was deep in how to find Irene. When he left police headquarters, he went to a phone booth in a drugstore and called Paulie again. Listen, Paulie, Charlie said, you remember the pictures I wanted of that girl? Yeah? The thing is, how can I get it and put it on a cassette? You want it, we'll do it. You want to come out here and tell us how much you want? When can I look at it? Day after tomorrow. You got it. I'll fly out there the day after tomorrow. When he got back to the beach, it was almost midnight. There was a message on the machine from Mayrose. He called her. Look, May, this is important or I wouldn't bother you. I got to know how I can get in touch with that girl, you know, that Irene Walker. I don't know, Charlie. What do you mean you don't know? She sighed. It's like cutting my own throat. It's pushing you further away. Who pushed who further away? Me? No, you. That's finished. That was almost 10 years ago. I can't do it tonight, Charlie. Okay, tomorrow. I'll try. I could call you like noon tomorrow. I'll call you. I don't know how I'm going to do on this. After she had hung up, she fell back on her bed, then turned over to stare at the wall. She had once had it made with Charlie and her whole life. Then they had that fight. Some fight. She had made it a fight. And she went out to the joint with that guy and they wound up in Mexico City, drunk. She didn't know what to do, so she stayed with the guy and they stayed drunk. Then one morning, 2 of her father's people came in the door and beat the shit out of the guy while the assistant manager just stood there. They took her out of the hotel like a couple of cops and flew her back to New York. She sat in a room with her father and he stared at her until she wanted to yell at him. He looked at her like she was garbage. You put a shame on your family, he said. You can make believe you're a member of this family, make believe you're still my daughter, because that's the way your grandfather wants it, or you could get out. You are not in this family. You are not my daughter, and I'm going to see to it that you stay in Old May for the rest of your life. Charlie and his father had to spend most of the day with the chemist testing out batches of a shipment of chinari that had just come in from Asia via Colombia. Charlie remembered to tell his father he had been picked up for the Noterbino hit. Yeah, Ed told me, his father said. But you couldn't be cleaner, right? Who made the hit, Pop? We did. Who hit him? Out-of-town talent. It was a specialist kind of job. He got back to the beach at 9:10 that night and called May Rose as he sat out on the terrace. May Rose had Irene's number. "Let me tell you, it was some job to get that, Charlie," she said. "I want to send you something really nice for this, May. I mean, what do you need? Tell me, whatever." She gave him the sad laugh. "Send me a Valentine," she said. "That's what I need." It was 9:25. So it was 6:25 in California. A good time. Irene picked up on the third ring. "This is Charlie Partana," he said. He held his breath. "Charlie Partana?" "Yeah." "This is terrific. How did you get my number?" "I asked somebody for it. You're not sore." "Sore? I'm tickled. Where are you?" "I'm in Brooklyn." "Oh. But I have to be in L.A. tomorrow, but that won't take long. I thought maybe we could have dinner tomorrow night." There was a 7-beat pause. "All right," she said. "I think I can do that." "Sensational. Okay, then I'll pick you up. What's a good time for you?" 7? Great. But not here. Make it, well, how about the lobby of the Beverly Wilshire? Sure. Okay, that's great. Sleep warm. She had turned Charlie's legs to water just by sitting there when he came into the lobby. He crossed the floor and loomed over her, saying, "I was scared I wasn't going to see you again." "I called you," she said. "Mayrose gave me your number, but you weren't in. I was going to call you again on Sunday morning." She was lying, but it was a nice kind of lie. "Let's take my car. You drive." They walked out slowly past the elevators and the display cases and the restaurants to the wide, covered driveway. She said something to a car jockey, and an amethyst-colored foreign car, a 2-seater with a top down, was backed into place in front of them. Charlie handed Irene into the car, gave the jockey some money, then he went around to the driver's side and got in. "Well," Irene said, "what kind of food do you like?" "Food?" "You know, what kind of restaurant?" "Outside. Outside's like a novelty to me." "Hey, do I have an outside restaurant for you?" They drove to the ocean, then up the Pacific Coast Highway, and Charlie felt taller, better, greater, kinder, and smarter than he had ever felt in his life. They turned up into the hills, and there was the restaurant. It must be a spick place, he thought, because the waiter looked it, and Irene asked him to bring something in what must have been Puerto Rican. "What's he getting us?" "Fresh pineapple juice and rum from a blender." She got him to eat something called combo nachos, and they were terrific. They laughed a lot, which made Charlie feel tremendous, because nobody else had ever thought he was funny. Very otherwise, in fact. After a while, he got around to the nitty. "You married?" he asked her. "Not really." "Even fake I want to know about." "I was married once." She shrugged it off. "About 4 years ago. Then he left me, and I don't know where he is, and I don't want to know." "You might want to get married again someday." "Could be, but until that time comes, I don't want to know about him." "How come you aren't a wop and I met you at Teresa Prizzi's wedding?" asked Charlie. "The bishop who married them wasn't a wop." "He wasn't? Oh, yeah, he was a Polak." "You think maybe I'm not a wop because my father was Polish?" She beamed on him. "Walker is a Polish name?" He was astounded. "It was Walkowitz. I was born Maida Walkowitz, but I shortened it." "I figured maybe you went to college with May Rose." "Something like that. How long will you be in L.A.? Maybe till Tuesday." "Do you have to get back?" "Well, yeah, I'm in olive oil and cheese." He thought he caught a flicker of amusement in her eyes as he said that. "What business you in?" "Taxes." "Taxes?" "You know, death and taxes. I'm a tax consultant." "Like, what do you do when you consult?" She gave him her standard answer. "I save them money. Like if a corporation pays ransom to a kidnapper for the return of a corporation officer, then that is deductible as a theft loss. It's technical, but that kind of thing." "This is simply terrific, Irene. I mean, I really mean it, you know." He saw her for lunch and dinner for the next 2 days. He told her he loved her at lunch on Monday. She touched his lips with her fingertips, then pressed her fingers to her lips. "I think I'm in love with you," she said. "I never loved anybody. All my life I had to protect myself, and you can't protect yourself anymore when you love somebody. I love you, Charlie." "You have to live in L.A." It's going to take me a little while to get out. My house, my business, I'm in pretty deep. Then I'll keep coming out here till we can get it all settled. Listen, Irene, everything being even, would you marry me? Yes, I would marry you, Charlie. They made love Monday afternoon on his rented bed at the hotel. There was never anything like it, not for anybody, not in history, Charlie thought. Paulie ran the Irene footage for him at the studio. It was absolutely sensational stuff. There was one confusing shot which Charlie didn't have them include in the cassette. It was just a flash almost. Mayrose brought Irene to his father, then it was over. Charlie took the cassette back with him to New York. They were passing through Watts when the car's telephone rang. It was his father in New York. "Hey, Charlie," Pop said. "How they hanging?" "Terrific, Pop. You sound like you're in the next room." "Listen, Charlie, we got a little problem here, so come straight to the office when you get in." Charlie went from LaGuardia to the St. Gabbione Hotel Laundry, where Vincent Prizzi ran his end of the family business. Pop was waiting for him. Before I forget," Charlie said, "I got a gimmick maybe you or Ed can use." He told his father about the tax dodge on kidnap insurance that Irene had told him. "That's a good wrinkle," Pop said. "Where'd you get it?" "Some tax expert." "So, what's the problem?" "Marty Gilroy is short in payoffs again." "What? So you break his legs?" "No, Pop. I want to shove a bruciador in his mouth and keep it there until he signs a check for every dime he has. Then I want to take him out on the island until his check's clear. Then I want to break his legs and let him hitchhike home. That's very good. It'll keep Marty straight. I like Marty. He's a real hitter." "Pop." "What?" "Who was the girl you was talking to at the wedding?" "What girl?" "Half were girls." "A great looker in a green and yellow dress." "A great looker?" "Yeah, sure." "Hey, I'm an old guy. I don't remember those kind of things like you do." "Maybe if I showed you pictures." "Why not? But how come this is such a big deal?" "She's a very special woman, and I need to know all I can find out about her. Paulie has a movie shot of you and her." "From where?" "From Teresa's wedding, from after at the hotel." "Yeah, I'd like to see it." "Can you come over to my place tonight? I'll cook you a meal." "I got a meet tonight." "Well, as soon as you can." "Sure, Charlie." "I'll go talk to Marty Gilroy." When Charlie got back to the beach that night, he sat on the terrace and called Paulie in California. "Hey, Paulie," he said, "I told my father you got him in the movies and he's all set up. He wants to see it. You got a cassette yet?" Charlie, yeah. Charlie, don't get sore." "Why should I get sore?" "Your father called me this morning at my house and told me to burn the tapes on him and the girl." "What?" "That's what he told me to do, Charlie, so that's what I had to do. I mean, what else?" "You did right, Paulie," Charlie said, and hung up. His father's baffling order to Paulie made Charlie restless. When dinner was over, while he was cleaning up, his mind went back to why Pop had called Paulie. He could see the shot of Pop and Irene in his mind very clearly. She was listening to Pop, concentrating on what he was telling her, and Pop wasn't making any wedding party conversation. Charlie went back to the terrace and sat there with a telephone in his lap, staring out at the bay, trying to figure out what he was going to do about Irene. He sat quietly, sweating in the cool summer night. She was a married woman without a husband. Let him stay lost, she said. He began to think about that. But suppose the husband showed up before Irene was ready to have everything worked out for her. Irene needed to be made a widow. That was it. All he needed was the husband's name and a little basic information so his people could find him. But he had to be careful. Irene was smart. He got to bed at 11 o'clock. He fell asleep thinking about how he had to get some hot airline blank ticket stock from Ed Prizzi to set himself and Irene with plenty of back-and-forth transportation. At 11:45, the phone rang. It was Pop. "Charlie." "Yeah, Pop." "Vincent wants to see you." "Tonight?" "Tomorrow, 2 o'clock. "Okay. Not at the laundry, at Ben's." "What the hell is this, Pop?" "Whatever it is," said Pop. "It hit the fan tonight." Corrado Prizzi lived with his favorite child, Amelia Sestero. Amelia answered the door. She led the way to 2 sliding oak doors and knocked softly. A muffled voice inside told her to come in. She slid open the doors. Charlie entered, and she slid them closed again behind him. Vincent Prizzi and Pop sat at the bare dining room table. "Sit down, Charlie," Uncle Vincent said. Charlie pulled up a chair. "I gave that tip on the ransom insurance to Eduardo, Charlie," Pop said. "He checked it out with the insurance lawyers, and they said it would work." "Good," Charlie said. "Jesus, my gout is killing me," Vincent said. Amelia came back in, supporting the small, sere figure of Corrado Prizzi. They were followed by a deeply tanned man who wore sports clothes which seemed comically garish besides the dark clothing of the others in the room. Amelia led the old man to the empty chair at the head of the table and gently helped to lower him into the seat. Nobody greeted the tanned man, who sat next to Charlie Partana, facing Vincent and Angelo. Amelia left the room. "We all know Cyril Bluestone," Vincent said. "He is the president of our 3 hotels in Vegas, and he's going to tell us what happened at the Casino Latino, the dirty bastards." Bluestone said, "We only found out because the collectors had started in to ask where was the money back east." He reached into his inside pocket. "I got 14 IOUs here. The biggest one is for $60,000. The smallest one is for $43,000. All of them together come to $722,085. The trouble is that when the collectors go to get the money, the roller who signed the IOU either was dead from a bad cold or something before he signed the paper, or he was in Europe or someplace where he couldn't have signed the paper in Vegas. For every date on every piece of paper, it was during the 10-day vacation which Jack Raymond, the casino manager, took for the first time in 3 years. When Raymond went on vacation, the shift boss, who was also the assistant casino manager, took over the job. He was Louis Palo. And with the family, a very experienced casino man. But every piece of fake paper he takes to the cage, he takes to the number 3 guy in the cage, Moxie Heller, who had to be Louis' agent in the cage. They had 10 days to operate. 10 days before Raymond came back to work. 10 days before the collectors went out. "Where are Louis and Heller?" Charlie asked. "Louis is dead," Vincent said. "Heller disappeared." "Louis was laying across the front seat of his car in the parking lot behind Presto Ciglioni's bar past the Strip," Bluestone said. "Moxie Heller came to us 4 years ago from a man named Virgil Marowitz. He was a genius with figures. Marowitz said he had hated to let him go, but that Heller's wife couldn't stand Phoenix. We hired him. You know the rest." "Where is the wife now?" Charlie asked. "In L.A., Bluestone said. "I'll give you Heller's file with the wife's address and all the background." "I think I should start with the wife," Charlie said. "After Marowitz," Vincent told him. "Tomorrow morning you'll fly out to Phoenix to see Marowitz. My father wants the money back, and he wants you to lay it on Marowitz to take you to Heller." "You think Marowitz was in on the scam?" "How do I know, Charlie? Louis couldn't have thought of it, so who knows?" Charlie got to Phoenix at 2 p.m. It was hot. He rented a car, checked in at a downtown motel, and showered before he called Virgil Marowitz. "Charlie Partana," Marowitz sang into the telephone. "What an honor. Are you in town? When can I see you?" "I'm going to pick you up in front of your office in 20 minutes. Be there." He hung up and got out the map of Phoenix the car rental company had given him and traced out the streets to the address of the Happy Finances office. He got into the car and drove there. There were 4 separate people in front of the building, so Charlie gave it a short blast with the horn, and a short, roly-poly, grinning man came half running, half walking to the car. "Mr. Partana?" he asked eagerly, with a voice that was pitched higher than an Abercrombie & Fitch dog whistle. Charlie nodded. "I'm Virgil Marowitz." He opened the door and got into the car. "What a privilege and a pleasure, Mr. Partana. May I call you Charlie?" "Listen to me, friend," said Charlie. "I came here a couple of thousand miles to tell you that your man, Moxie Heller, stole $722,085 from my people. You are going to make out a check for the $722, then we are going to your bank and have it certified. All right? All right. I'm going to ask you only once, where is Moxie Heller?" "Mr. Partana, I haven't seen or spoken to the man in more than 4 years. Where are we driving?" "We drive till it gets dark," Charlie said. "Then you get out and dig a hole with that shovel on the back seat, and then I do the job on you and drop you in the hole and cover it up." Marowitz turned around and looked at the back seat. There was a new shovel on it. "Do I have any choice?" "Give me the money and Hella, and you could sleep in your own bed tonight." "Well, then," Marowitz said, "no need to drive any further. We can go straight to my bank, and I'll make you out a counter check, which they will certify." "Okay," Charlie said. "Where is Moxie Hella?" "I purely don't know, Charlie, so I cannot answer that question, but I could make a highly educated guess. But before I make that guess, I've got to tell you something. I just don't believe you'd kill me because of the complicated way the cable TV company is set up. The Prizzis own 65% of a $40 million investment in the cable only so long as I am well and strong enough to protect the revolving credit fund which pours in the operating money." "Jesus, you are something else, Virgil," Charlie said, exasperated but admiring. "Oh, I'll give you the certified check," Marowitz said. "Ed Prizzi will never let any of your people cash it." "Ah, shit," Charlie said, throwing a U with the car. "We'll get back to my hotel and get out of this fucking heat while I call New York." Vincent Prizzi told him to stay where he was. He would call him right back. He called back in 7 minutes. "Somebody screwed up, Charlie," he said. "Buy the man a drink." "How is everything back home?" Virgil asked. "They gave you a lifetime pass," Charlie said. The waiter brought the drinks. "Are you gay, Virgil?" Charlie asked. "Oh, a little." His face lit up. "Are you?" "No." "Oh, well, don't worry about it." "Where is Moxie Hella?" "Such stick-to-itiveness. Well, if I were one of the top executives of your organization, I would forget all about Phoenix, a 4-year-old trail, and go back along the only trail which Moxie Heller ever followed consistently in all the time I knew him." "What trail?" "His wife." Moxie Heller's wife lived in an elegant fake Georgian house in Westwood. Charlie parked in the street about 50 yards beyond the house, then walked back to make his way quietly up the driveway to the side door and let himself in. Charlie looked for a room with a light on, opened the door, and found himself staring into the hooded, khaki-pouched eyes of Moxie Heller as he sat, dealing solitaire. Heller stared at him and blinked. Charlie didn't say anything. "What do you want, my friend?" Heller asked. "The Prizzi sent me." Heller moved his right hand to open the drawer of the desk in front of him, and Charlie moved across the room and, both as a warning and as a precaution, broke Heller's wrist. Heller went under for a few seconds. Charlie sat close to him and waited for his eyes to flicker again. He opened the drawer while he waited and took out a long knife. It had beautiful balance. It would be a great throwing knife. He slid it under his belt at the small of his back. Heller came round. "Where is the Prizzi money, Moxie?" Charlie asked. "Who are you?" "Charlie Partana." "Oh, shit. Straight Arrow Charlie, the All-American Hood." "Well, Charlie, I'm going to tell you I haven't got the money, and you are going to say you don't believe me. Then everything is going to get rough for me, but that's the facts. I don't have the money." "What's the difference, Moxie? What you did, things had to get rough for you anyway, so come on." "Where?" "Out to the car. Come on." Heller got up. He stared at his ballooning wrist. "Jesus, this hurts," he said, to no one at all. They went out the back door, and Charlie moved Heller into the 2-car garage. He told Heller to swing the door open. They went inside. "The light, Moxie," Charlie said, pulling down the garage door. Heller hit the switch. The light showed an Oldsmobile Cutlass and an empty space for another car. "You had time to think," Charlie said. "You want to tell me where the Prizzi money is?" "If I knew, maybe I'd tell you, maybe I wouldn't, but I don't know." Charlie took a revolver, which had a sound suppressor fixed to its barrel, from a shoulder holster and shot Heller 3 times, once in the face, once in the chest, and once in the throat. He put the weapon away and opened the trunk of the Oldsmobile. He picked Heller up from where he had fallen beside the car and folded him into the trunk. He slammed the trunk lid shut, put out the light, opened the garage door, and went back into the main house. He sat in the darkened dining room and waited. He sat for 35 minutes before headlights came up the drive, pulling a car behind them. The side door opened and the woman came in, arms filled with shopping. She closed the door, crossed the kitchen, and called out, "I'm home, dear." Charlie got up and moved into the kitchen doorway, saying, "Moxie isn't here, Mrs. Heller." She whirled around to face the voice. She was Irene Walker. She screamed, "Charlie!" He was speechless. "What are you doing here?" she asked hysterically. "Why didn't you call? You always call." "Oh, shit, Charlie, you've ruined everything." "Where's the money?" "Money? Where is it? Heller killed Louis Pallo to get it. Where is it?" "Charlie, I don't know what you're talking about. Did you ask Moxie? Where is Moxie?" "He's dead." "Dead?" "All right, Irene. Where's the Prizzi money your husband stole from Vegas?" She moved in a daze. "Maybe I know. He had a little bag. I'll show you." She left the kitchen, and he followed her along a corridor out to a closet in the main front hall. She opened the door and shoved a satchel out with her foot. "It could be in there," she said. Charlie snapped open the clasps and opened the bag. It was filled with money. "I'm going to count this," he said. "Move over that way. I want you in front of me." She moved. He counted the money. "You're short," he said. "I got $360 here. Half. We don't talk thousands outside the family." "Half?" "Mrs. Heller, where's the rest of the money?" "Charlie, I didn't even know it was there," Irene said. "So how could I know it was short? When Moxie came here 3 nights ago, he had a big suitcase and that small bag. He just slung the small bag in that closet and he unpacked the suitcase." "Then you knew he came to stay." Charlie's voice was cold. "Yes." "Did you ask him about that?" "Yes." "And?" "He said his lungs were bad again, that he had to go back to Phoenix, but that he was so tired I had to let him rest here for a few days." "And you did?" "Yes." "This is the worst night of my life," Charlie said. "I wanted him to stay, Charlie. It was my chance to talk to him and get him to give me a divorce." "He ripped off the Prizzis for $722, said Charlie. "Where is he?" "I'll take him with me." "For Christ's sake, Charlie, he was my husband. He was good to me." "You're surprised? $722 and you're surprised," he said bitterly. "You still want to marry me?" She stared at him sullenly. "You want a little time to think about it?" "I want you to have time to think about it," she said. "Okay. Moxie's in the Oldsmobile in your garage. I'll drive the Olds out to the L.A. airport and leave it in the parking lot. The cops will pick up on it." "Charlie, do you believe me what I said about not seeing Moxie for 4 years?" "No, I don't believe anything you said." His voice rasped with bitterness. He felt like somebody had handed him an armful of dead fish. "Listen, Irene," he said hoarsely, "I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. You're going to stay awake tonight and think where that other $360 is, you hear? I got to lose Moxie and the car and get back to New York. I got to do something, and that's all I can decide to do right now." "Okay, Charlie," she said. "When will you call me?" "I don't know, Irene," he said. "I just don't know." He left the house by the kitchen door and drove the car and Moxie's body to the airport. He left the car in the airport parking lot for the rental people to find. He caught the red-eye out of L.A., disillusioned with the most important thing in his life. Who needed a woman like that? All that shit about being a tax consultant? On the plane, he had himself a 7-Up and a corned beef sandwich and automatically began to remember all of Irene's good points. She was a tremendous woman, no two ways about it, he reminded himself. Above and beyond everything else, Irene had proved that she understood the environment. Even though he had done the job on her husband, she had been willing to push that aside because she could see that the man had done a lousy thing to the Prizzis. But shit, if Heller had zipped Louis, why was there only $360 in his satchel? If Heller had zipped Louis, he would have had the whole score. Because there was only $360, that didn't mean that Irene had to be the one who had iced Louis. The opposite was true. If the whole $720 had been in that house, and if Heller had really been dying on his feet, then maybe somebody could say Irene had clipped Louis, as crazy as that had to sound. When the plane landed in New York, he drove the Chevy van to the beach and fell asleep, thinking that, after he got out of the meeting about the $360, he was going to get Pop out here, cook him a tremendous meal, then run the Irene Walker cassette for him so he could ask him some questions and get everything together in his head. They would get married after a while, and she would move to New York, of course. When he woke up, he felt great. When he was shaved and dressed, he checked out the food in the house, then went out to the stores to get everything his father doted on eating. He prepared most of the stuff for dinner, then got into the van and drove down to the St. Gabbione Hotel Laundry. His father took him into Vincent's office. They shook hands, and Vincent asked how everything went. "Well, it went half right," Charlie said. "Half to 7:22 I got back, only half." "Yeah," Vincent said. "How do you figure that?" "Louis and Hella, it figures, split the take in Vegas. Then Hella goes to his wife's house in L.A. Then Louis makes the meat out of Presto's, and he's got a split on him, and whoever's got the 360 nailed him and lifted it." "Louis is going to hang around Vegas for 24 hours? Then is he going out to some meet with half the split on him?" "What else? That is how come the other $360 disappeared," Charlie said calmly. "Maybe." "I talked to Heller in L.A., and he won't say anything. He says he don't know where the money is, so I pay him off. Then the wife comes home. I talk to her. No problem. She takes me to that money. I count it, and there's only half there." "There is something fishy here," Vincent said. "And somebody's got our $360. He chewed his lip. "But you done great, Charlie."